Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Raising the New Earth podcast. I'm your host, Noah Dory, and today I wanted to talk about neuroplasticity and some practical steps every one of us can take today in order to anchor a new habit and prime what we call a new constitution. So, the idea of neuroplasticity is not a new idea. It was first theorized over 120 years ago. Um, and some even think that it was dated back even further. But the idea of neuroplasticity came about as a science when we started looking at the brain and the brain adaptability to rearrange connections, neural connections, altering both structure and functions of the nervous system. The brain is now known to be able to rewire itself, creating changes that are not only biochemical changes, but also morphogenically that seems to take place and be able to clear anything in the regular developmental process, such as trauma, chemical imbalances, experiences, both positive and negative, and purposely with intention, planning, and practice, we can attend to the brain. The the goal of today's episode is really to give you practical tools of this is my behavior. How do I change it? And how do I make sure that my former constitution, my former behavior is not, it doesn't come back? So the two academic circles, when it comes to the idea of neuroplasticity, came from two individuals, one by the name of William James and one by the name of Santiago Ramon y Cajal. And the book by Williams James, The Principles of Psychology, was printed back in 1890 and is the first book that used the word plasticity. And the meaning of the word and the terminology neuroplasticity as it is used today is more closely attributed to Santiago's work in 1904, who is actually considered to be one of the founders of modern modern brain science and modern neuroscience, which is the same thing. So the study since then of neuroplasticity in the field of neuroplasticity has grown exponentially um, over the past 40 plus years as technology has been able to develop and allow scientists to map and study the brain and its processes in minutes detail. Um, Something to emphasize here is that, and Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it a lot, is that the brain is continuously plastic. So we have to treat it as a precious resource. So those of us that are aware of the shell, as I call our body, um, are aware of the need to brush our teeth every morning and every evening and to eat healthier foods as much as we can. We treat those aspects of our physicality as precious resources. However, we gotta pay attention to that decay that is happening in our brain. And Joe Dispenza came and said that everything that decays in the brain is reversible. However, it is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to take care of it. And Dr. Michael, if you're familiar with Dr. Michael Merzenich, he has a bunch of books out and research out. You can find him on YouTube, and he talks about how brain aerobics should be part of our daily devotion. Just some of us, read the Bible. Some of us, drink our lemon water in the morning. But what happened to the brain when we neglect our attention to it? It starts decaying. And so they have conducted research and they came to the conclusion that with only 20 to 30 hours a week, we can start changing the brains of children and adults. It is about applying technologies to offset the decay that we have gotten so accustomed to. I'm sure some of us, if not many of us, have people that suffer from dementia, or we know people that have gotten senile over the years, and we always attribute it to their age. But what Dr. Michael says is that it is about giving the brain the work. It is about making sure that it's of use all the time. By reading a book, we make sure it's of use. There's also online apps that I think he helped develop. I think it's called Brain Headquarters or Brain HQ. But in attending to the brain or doing Scrabbles, or my mother-in-law does Sudoku all the time, you're actually attending to the brain needs to not decay. So it's about driving the brain plasticity from the negative position back to the positive direction. And we can each apply strategies that anyone on the planet can do. We got to use scalable strategies for great societal transformation in reach, so that people of all domains and in all domains can contribute to that. So something that I just mentioned, doing puzzles, reading a book, learning a new language, doing Sudoku or puzzles, or anything of that sort can help our brain to not decay. Now, with the research that I have conducted, they realized that with simple forms of training in older or younger impaired individuals, all their neurological abilities were substantially, if not completely, restored. And that was a study that was done by De Villers and Sidani et al. In 2010. They really looked at a human model example and how the frontal sensory communication, the theta phase coherence, selectively strengthened for targets and selectively reduced for distractors by training itself. So every day, 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day did make a difference. Now, I emphasize it again and again and again in my podcast. People are not doomed. We are not doomed by our genes and hardwired to be a certain way for the rest of our lives. The new science that's emerging is very empowering to all human beings, in a way for us to create the reality that we choose. The world and everything in and on it is made out of matter and energy, from the most microscopic organisms to the biggest. This is the truth. And so in humans, when we look at the body, we got the tissues, we got the cells, we got the molecules, the atoms, subatomic particles, and energy. And energy is not just a philosophical idea. It is real, and it is by now actually measurable. So we have to acknowledge that our body has energy and that it emits energy. We're electromagnetic fields walking around, and this energy, it makes us the human beings that we are, some of it, right? And this translates not only to the body, but also to the mind itself. So when we use the principles of energy, and when individual focuses on a thought with direct focus, it can become more real than anything else. That is why our environment is part of our reality. The environment, the familiar people, the family, the places and things, it causes the brain to fire off thoughts and feelings based on experiences. In many cases, these thought patterns are not positive, really. We are being affected by other people's opinions. We're being affected by the news. We're being affected by neighbors. We're being affected by friends that we may not share the same point of view. And yet they are detrimental for us to achieving our best life possible, right? The turning the negative to positive is the detrimental point to help us achieve the best life possible. There is a rule that's called Hebb's rule, that cells that fire together wire together, and it applies both negatively and positively. So that means that in order for us to change, we have to learn to think beyond what it is that the environment and the external stimulus is showing us, right? We have to be able to create new bridges, to wire the new pathways, means to build a new thought patterns. And that new thought pattern might be the necessary piece of the puzzle to achieve a desired outcome. And we know that great leaders and heroes throughout history all had that one thing in common. They were able to dream bigger than their circumstances. They were able to manifest something that did not exist and to actually bring it to fruition. So by harnessing the power of their own mind, they were able to, with certainty and conviction, they were able to bring new things to life, right? And so, yes, we know that environmental factors do push genes in the body, which create disease and stress and sadness and joy and happiness. But unfortunately, many of us live in that rut of patterns and emotions that have been memorized and enforced on us since childhood. Like, how many of us can find a thought that is truly ours? How many of us find ourselves speaking things that our mom or dad or aunt or grandparents spoke or behave in a way that they did? So we know that change requires memorization of a new pattern to move from a state of anger, resentment, hurt, jealousy, and betrayal to a state of gratitude and thankfulness. I always say to my kids, gratitude is the only attitude. Yes, we can ask for more. We should ask for more. I don't believe in that, in the notion that money is evil. No, I actually believe in the opposite. I think that once you are secure in who you are and once you have grown in your spiritual path, that money can be of service to so many people and communities and organizations. So yes, I would like to make more money in order to be of service to other people around me. And so we need to go into that mindset of, thank you, God, more please. Thank you, God, more please. Thank you, more please. And that is okay. So we know that the response of the nervous system to that negativity attitude in our life creates that fight or flight response. And that leads to illness and disease, both physically, mentally, and spiritually. To change this, we got to create some changes. We have to start with the creation of changes. That frontal lobe is the domain of creation and change. And there are three essential functions that need to happen, right? We have to become self-aware in order to inhibit and stop. Like, I always imagine a stop sign right there, inhibit and stop unwanted states of mind and body. And then the second function is start to create a new mind to think about new ways of being. And the third one is making thoughts more real than anything else. So that's why they say they talk about meditation, those that meditate and believe in law of attraction. It's not just thinking that thoughts, it's that thinking and feeling. I think Tony Robbins calls it priming. It's that thinking and feeling that engages, and even Deepak Chopra talks about it, that engages the new reality that we want to bring about to our present lifetime. That is more than anything else what activates it. So using those three functions can really help begin to build a new connections that are necessary to keep moving forward. So if you look at your present time, if you look at the old state of being that you're transitioning from to the new state of being, you can look at it in 5 different sections to change our reality. From those same thoughts of our old state of being, we say, if you're going to do the same thing, expect the same results. So from those same thoughts, we're going to move into new thoughts. From those same choices, we're going to move into new choices. From those same actions and behaviors, we're going to move to new actions and behaviors. From the same experiences to new experiences. From the same feelings to new feelings. Now, it sounds really simple in theory. I know it's not simple to anchor new behavior, even when you absolutely desire. but pay attention to your personality, because your personality is your personal reality. Your personality is your personal reality. And we already know that thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body. So be very aware about what it is that you're thinking and what it is that we're feeling every single day, because that thought is the biochemical reaction in the brain. And then those messengers of thought is what the brain releases, those chemical signals that the brain releases that are transmitted to the body, that creates those chemicals that allow the body to feel according to that thought. So your state of being, your thinking, feeling, needs to be monitored by us. The way that I like to work on it is through mantras and neurofeedback and meditation. And this is a daily priming that is going to really be a great catalyst in one's desire to change to a new self, to a quantum self, right? Because we know that we need to denature our old self. We got to pay attention to how we behave. And when we feel a certain emotion, so if someone triggers us, we got to pause and see what it is that we need to work on, because memory without the emotional charge is really called wisdom. So when I'm no longer triggered by things that used to trigger me before, I know that I have stepped forward in my progression to anchor a new behavior and not feed a chemical reaction from my brain. So when we think about or remember a sad or traumatic event, we produce the same chemistry in our brain and body as if the event is happening. And that's why it's really important to work with people that have, deep trauma or PTSD. I would always go to a practitioner that knows how to deal with that. So the idea is we have three different brains. We have three brains. We have the neocortex, we have the limbic brain or the emotional brain, and we got the cerebellum, which is the seat of our subconsciousness. Your body and mind merged as one. This is who you truly are. So the idea is to go from a point of view of a philosopher to an initiator to master, which is the neurochemical order that we can come to, and consciously observing those programs. So look at those thoughts that come in. Don't participate in them. In Kabbalah, we say pause. Pause, what a pleasure. So before we jump to react, we got to pause a little bit. We got to think, and we got to see our opportunity. So if you're no longer signaling your brain in the same way, you start firing new neurons, new chemicals to your brain, physically changing your brain, turning on different networks of neurons to create different experiences. We have to be able to repeat this experience again and again to neurochemically condition our body into our conscious mind. And this is what happens when we think we have it and then we neglect it. So if journaling makes us feel really, really, really good, then we should treat it like brushing our teeth. If meditation makes us feel really, really, really good, we should treat it like taking a shower. This is what we do to condition our body into our new conscious mind. The thoughts that we think are the electrical charge in the quantum field. The feelings are the magnetic charge in the quantum field. So how we think and how we feel obviously influences every single atom in our life. The thoughts send the signal out, and the feelings draw the event back. And so give thanks to something that you want to happen in your present as if it actually happened. That's when I mentioned the meditating with the feelings and the thoughts and the feelings. So what you are broadcasting every day in your life, in your field, will create your state of being. So ask yourself, what are you broadcasting into this world every day? What is your signal say right now? And create that state of being. And if you don't desire that signal to be out in the world, then change it. The absence of an addiction is called joy, right? And the fact that we can turn on 23 genes just by being in a good mood, that means we're literally and physically rewriting our biology. How amazing is that? So you go from an animalistic state to a divine state, from survival to creation, from stress to homeostasis, from contraction to expansion, catabolism to animalism, to dis-ease to health, from imbalance to order, from breakdown to repair, from degeneration to regeneration, from being selfish to being selfless, to feeling separated from the world and isolated to feeling more connected, from incoherence to coherence, from limited possibilities to all possibilities, right? And so the question remains, how do we do it? Well, to change our lives, we already agreed that we first have to change our thoughts and feelings. Then we have to do something, change our actions or behaviors immediately to have a new experience, which in turn produces a new feeling. And then we have to memorize, that is the priming, this is the anchoring, memorize that feeling until we move into that state of being when mind and body are aligned, right? Eventually, you want to make sure that you fire and wire together, right? You fire and wire, you focus on the fire and wire of the new way of thinking and the new way of being. This will ultimately become second nature and the new normal. So a few tips on how to do that. And I know it's important because so many times in my clinic with so many clients of mine, I see a certain habit that is being pushed to the corner by attending to a more desirable physical need of the body. And then while we work on the body, because we call the gut the second brain, the brain kind of starts releasing chemicals, happy chemicals, dopamine and serotonin, because we know 95 of serotonin is actually in our gut. And then a few weeks later or a few months later, I see that shadowy part, that old behavior trying to sneak in through different scenarios that happens to the client. And I see it with myself as well. I mean, the other day, I saw this lady and something about this lady just rubbed me the wrong way. And I found myself reacting to her like I was, a teenager again. This is how I would react in my teenage years. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why am I wrapped up about it? That is so not the new me. So these little incidents come about, I think, to remind us that we still have work to do, and that is okay. We are here because we still have work to do. That is okay. But if you need to, and most of us will need help with making sure that cells that fire together stay together, making sure that we can change the course of our life and our health, we do need practitioners and we do need community to help us. Some of the tools that I like using is, I always say coaches need coaches, and I do need community very much. And I think having a good friend or a community to kind of vent to is always good, as long as you're gonna leave there feeling uplifted and better than you were, as opposed to having a community that will drag you down to your old behavior. That's something I don't advise my clients to do. Neurofeedback is great. Any meditation, breathing is super helpful into connecting to our ANS, autonomic nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system. Just pause and take a few breaths. Make sure that your exhale is longer than your inhale. Being in nature. Nature is an amazing healer. Having animals that help you release that joy, having animals around you, grounding, going to the ground and put your bare feet in the ground, in the soil, planting, attending to the garden, stepping outside, listening to the birds sing, switching off the news. And I know that there are so many things that are happening right now, but we can't have that poison our minds. we can't have that send a message to our body saying, I'm not safe, I'm not safe, I'm not safe, because you're gonna manifest being unsafe, and you're gonna manifest a fight or flight response in your sympathetic nervous system, which doesn't really exist, right? Through our perception, we see the world, and it's not helpful. It's not helpful at all. And so be very aware of what you're putting in your body, just like you being very aware of what you're putting in your mind, the thoughts that you're holding, and have a very strong mantra for that week. I love ending my sessions with client with something that I called I am. For example, with someone that may feel unsafe, we will work on I am safe, I am protected, I am safe, I'm protected. With someone that battles a nervous system issue, we would say something like I am at ease, I am calm, I am at ease with myself and my surroundings. So you're bringing about, it's like a prayer to call um, into your life from your better version of yourself at this moment, from perhaps a parallel universe or whatnot. So I always like to hold my clients accountable with that I am. And we also have a transformational action, like a fun actionable step that they be accounted for that week, that can help them reach that homeostasis state of being and feeling. Well, I hope this was somewhat helpful. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to leave a comment. Let's start a discussion. Give us your thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. I'll see you next time. Peace.